Lots going on in the world. I love y'all. I care about y'all. But I want to stay on target tonight. You know, lots going on. I'm kind of uncomfortable tonight, so I might be shifting around and this, that, and the other. So I appreciate those of you that keep me in prayer. And if you're out there, give me a thumbs up so I know you're there. You know, you're welcome to check in and say hi and all of that other stuff. But so many important things are going on. I want to stick to the topic at hand, which is where I think we're going. Uh, so in any case, with regard to what's going on with the bear country and with Mr. Z, we were told, uh, a year ago that we would not be sending jets over there, and now we are. We were told that we would not be sending cluster munitions over there, and we are, because those cluster munitions, when they drop, they don't cover a small little area, of the enemy. They cover the size of a football field. So they wipe out everything and everyone in the area of a football field. So it's kind of like what we did in Vietnam. Wipe everybody out and let God sort them out. We went over there. We couldn't tell our friends from the enemy because everybody looked the same. So unfortunately, things happened where whole villages got wiped out, and they were like, "Well, just let God sort it out." And that truth didn't come out for years and years. So, and now we were told we would never have boots on the ground. We would never have boots on the ground over in Mr. Z's country. And they're sending 3,000 more men over to that conflict. And I wonder when the bodies start coming back, if Mr. Burns is going to be looking at his watch, wondering when the ceremony's going to be over so he can have his ice cream. And they're all the same. It's just like Bush when he attended the funeral for the 5 fallen police officers, and it looked like he had been drinking, and he had Michael Obama's hand, Barry's wife, Michael, and he had Michael's hand and was doing London bridges with Michael's hand, swinging Michael's hand during the ceremony, and cutting up and laughing and everything at the service for 5 fallen police officers. And we have an administration that was picked for failure. transportation secretary, that can't keep our trains on track, uh, economic secretary that can't keep our economy in line. All of this was done on purpose for the demise of this country. And you have Milquetoast Mike, who's now become a Judas and turned his back on 45. And he invokes God. That's the worst thing to me, is bringing God into your mess, And speaking of mess, for you Karens like Helen Smith, who's offended because I'm lying in my 80-degree, hey Justin, because I'm lying in my 82-degree room with the fan, with no shirt on, with my light blanket over me for a modicum of decency, and you're offended. If you're offended at that, then please go over to Nick Pupicato or Grossicato's channel and watch his latest video where his husband tanked him in the toot and they made a big mess on his bed, a big mess of green poop, which he shows on camera, and he's supposed to be a food channel, and they don't do anything to him, but yet PopPop has a coffee with PopPop video, and they take that down and give me a strike because of coffee with PopPop. Obviously there's a double standard on the tube, So please, like and subscribe. If you get anything out of my videos, I'm sorry I don't have puppies and clowns and kittens and balloons and that all that TikTok-y stuff, but too much is going on in the world. And like I said, Mr. Burns, you have a 50-year consummate liar and plagiarist who's in charge of everything, who's being pulled like a puppet on a string by 44, who's technically in his third term, a man who hates this country. And he talked in innuendo and metaphor, and everybody sat at the press dinner and laughed as 44 said that he was going to use drones against people that were against his policies. And he said, you all didn't realize that you had elected a pot-smoking socialist into the WH. And he talked about having a red wedding for the Republicans. A red wedding is where you invite your enemies to a wedding, then you lock all of the doors and you slaughter your enemies after they've had too much to drink. So these people sat and they laughed like they were the in crowd when Barry contemptuously was looking at them and talking about them, but they didn't realize it. So, and I made the mistake of voting for Barry the first time. It actually cost me my house because when I had my place in South Baltimore, I bought a car with a Bathhouse Barry sticker on the back of the car, and I didn't feel like peeling it off and making a mess. And my landlord was one of those kooks with the tea bag hanging from his hat, looking like Minnie Pearl. I didn't know what that was about either. He was a Tea Party guy. And in any case, when he saw the Bathhouse Barry sticker on the back of my car, he literally came into my apartment while I was in my bedroom and stood in the doorway and asked me how I dare have that sticker on the back of my car. And then he gave me a new contract that was impossible to meet for my apartment and raised my rent. So I ended up losing my apartment in South Baltimore and having to move where I am now after a year and a half of homelessness. So that's why it's a good thing not to tell people how you vote or anything. I'm not even going to vote in the 2024 election because it won't make any difference. We're in a banana republic now. And if you don't believe it, you need to take your head out of the sand. We're in a banana republic. This will be the first election in my life that I won't vote, going all the way back to Richard Nixon in the 70s. So, in any case, I feel that if I were to vote this time and vote incorrectly, that it would just get me put on some sort of watch list and make all kinds of trouble for me. So it's not worth it at this point. Things are too far gone. Mr. Burns has drained the strategic petroleum reserve down to where it's not even, worth having. He's used up all of our ammunition. They've spent us into worse than bankruptcy. And recently, America's credit rating got downgraded from AAA to AA. So that means it'll be more expensive for the government to print its worthless paper and to try and get people to buy it overseas when people are bailing from the US dollar. So the US paper dollar is nothing more than they have all of this debt that they're ringing up, and they're like, well, we just sell it to some sap overseas, and then if they don't like it, we go in and strong arm them with our military. And that's not working anymore. And all of the sanctions that we pulled on people, all of those sanctions, I'm having to rub my leg to keep the circulation going. It's very difficult when you're bedridden and you don't have too many positions, that you can switch your weight and everything. And I don't want to get bed sores. And I appreciate you all sending me the bed pads, Justin and Terry, and all of you sending me the diapers and all of that other god-awful stuff that you have to have when you become the better part of a century old and you're still on this earth by the grace of God. But I don't believe at this point that if push came to a shove that Mr. Burns would press the button, because dishonest people are cowards. They're cowards. And it reminds me of Dr. Smith. He reminds me of Dr. Smith off of that old series Lost in Space, where Dr. Smith was always selling out his friends. He would sell anybody for anything that he could get. And I believe that of Mr. Burns, that they've already sold us out, and that someday, because of this fifth column that's pushing its way up into the country from the south, and they're depositing these people all over the country, and they're trying to disarm people. They're trying to disarm honest working people, And tough times are coming for this country, fam. I've already lived through this stuff before. I'm an old man, and they're counting on you young people, you know, playing your video games and having what they call bread and circuses, smoke and mirrors, to where you're not paying attention and you don't care other than getting the next highest score on your video game, and mommy and daddy calls you up to dinner and you yell at them to leave you alone till you get your next highest score. And then when they yell at you the second time, you come back upstairs, yell at them, eat your dinner, push away from the table without even saying thank you, like a dog in a pan, not saying thank you to your parents or to God, not helping to clear the table, and you run back downstairs and play your video game while this world falls apart and while mommy and daddy struggles to keep a roof over your head and food in your mouth. And fam, that brings me to the next point. Now that they're starting to send Americans over to Mr. Z's country to advise, they're really mercenary fighters that they're sending over, but they call them advisors, to show his people how to use our tanks and all. Hey, Linda, how are you? So, in any case, all of this stuff they promise not to do. They promise not to send cluster munitions. They promise not to send jets. They promise not to send our people over there. And it's just a matter of time before people start coming back in body bags. And Mr. Burns is there watching his watch to see when the ceremony will be over so he can have his ice cream. And fam, the next point I want to make is at some point they're going to have to redo the draft. They're going to have to reinstate the draft. They're going to have food rationing, because the food that's available is going to have to go to people in the military first. They're going to have fuel rationing. I believe that eventually there will be a recall on the U.S. dollar, to where if you want to spend your money, you're going to have to turn your dollars in to the bank again in order to get your cryptocurrency, your electronic, cryptocurrency. And then they're going to ask you where you got your money from. Where did you get this 10,000? Where did you get this 40,000? And if it's a large sum of money, I guarantee you they're going to tax it. Because Mr. Burns has hired 90,000 new IRS agents with weapons. Why do IRS agents have to have GUNS and just billions of rounds of projectiles? This YouTube format, you got to be so careful as far as what words you use. But fam, if you haven't yet, you need to stock up on things that are going to be very scarce when the stuff hits the fan, because food is going to be scarce. All of your mundane, sundries are going to be scarce, especially since that a third of the world is starving instead of a fourth, and they've only produced 50% of the food this year that they normally would have. So the bear country has BOMBED, the grain silos and everything, over in Mr. Z's country. And Mr. Z's country made 25% of the world's grain. And unfortunately, it's always going to be the poor people that suffer first. So it's going to be the people in Africa and all of that other stuff, because the grain that got out is being sold to the highest bidder. It's not going to the poor countries that really need it to survive. So everybody is stocking up. The U.S. is stocking up. China is stocking up. Russia is stocking up, because they all know that this WAR is going to go global. And it's just a slow sleepwalk that we're doing into WW3. And I don't think that WAR will ever be technically declared. I think that it'll be just at first a whole bunch of skirmishes. We've already shot down some of their helicopters and planes and stuff. And they've already gone after our stuff. So technically, we're already at WAR. And the next thing is, fam, when they need resources, they're going to go to people's houses and they're going to do a home wellness check to see how much food you have and how many GUNS you have stockpiled. So I suggest to you that you have what I would call a working pantry, which is a small pantry right off of the kitchen that you work with. And then you have a hidden pantry in some sort of hidden safe room in your house. Take a mirror or a dresser or a bookshelf and fashion it into a door, and take some room in your house. Take a mirror or a bookshelf for a door. Take a mirror or a bookshelf and fashion it into a door, and turn a whole room into a hidden safe room where you can have your food and your munitions, and if some, and that way when they come for food and everything, they'll get what you have in your pantry by the kitchen, and they'll probably think, well, that's it, and they'll leave you alone so that you'll have the rest of your food. You should even take some food and bury it, in places around your house so that you can recover it later. Because this stuff is going to get really, really bad, fam. It's going to be really, really bad. And like I said, Mr. Burns doesn't have any loyalty to this country. He just figures that one day somebody's going to take everything over, and he wants to be part of the New World Order. But the ironic thing is they're not going to want to put a person who betrayed his own country into a position of trust. If you think, fam, that world communism is going to be great and that you're going to be under the thumb of somebody who can shut your food off and your currency and everything off, and you can't vote the person out of office, you can't complain, and believe me, fam, you can go out, hey, how you doing? You can go out and march in the street all you want till you're blue in the face. And these people do not care about you. They don't care about you rioting or anything, just as long as you don't damage too much infrastructure. And when you do that, they're going to let you know. But you know how ironic that uh, all of these companies that they had in the area, and they use these companies to drop off bricks in the middle of places where people are marching, and there just happened to be I don't know what you mean. I want to stay on the subject though. But they put pallets of bricks out in the area where they know that people are having these marches, and they're hoping that people will start, throwing bricks and everything. So all of this stuff is heating up, and the trap is closing very slowly. But all of a sudden, when things get really short, like food and gasoline and all of that, jobs, people's jobs are being replaced at a very fast rate by AI, because you don't have to pay a computer overtime to do its job. I mean, they even got McDonald's, with AI running the store now. And that's why all of these actors and screen guild writers and all of that, they're afraid because they know that the future is AI, generated movies and stuff, and they're obsolete. And they thought that they would be the ones, that would be safe from all of that. But let me read you this in the news. It says that Mr. Burns is going to crack down on another appliance, and it's going to be worse than gas stoves, and that is the air conditioners. They don't want people having air conditioners or running air conditioners, and they're saying that that contributes to global warming as well. So they want everybody's air conditioner, which means that when hard times come, there are going to be a lot of people that pass because they can't get cool enough. Like I said, my room is 82 degrees, and I keep the air conditioning at a bare minimum, and I run part of my room I run off of solar and batteries. But it says EPA regulators are even targeting new air conditioning systems. A pending law would outlaw all but the most climate-friendly new central air conditioners by 2025. So they want to replace all of the heat pumps and air conditioners with new ones. They want to replace all of the houses with just a little slit for a window. And it's going to make a lot of people very, very rich. And then they have the thing about crickets. They want everyone to eat ground up crickets and grubs. And I say, no, thank you. No, thank you. I'll just have beans and rice then. But everything is becoming so expensive just to own a car or own a house. You have to have a whole income for the car, and you have to have a whole income for your house, and then you have to wait in line at a food pantry for your food. I never thought I'd see this day in America, but it's here. And you have to have your right relationship with God so you don't get left behind. And if you do get left behind, you have to ask God to forgive you of your sins, bless you, and keep you, because it's going to be a rough tribulation period and a rough 7 years coming up. In the year 2029, a great big asteroid is supposed to hit on like April 13th or April 14th. It's Apophis, and it's a huge asteroid, and they're not even telling people about it. But that's supposed to hit, and if it does, we'll be under an ice canopy, and then we'll wish we had the heat again. Well, that's it for me, fam, tonight. I gotta go take my next thing of medicine. But I love y'all. I care about you. I thank you for the goodies that you send me, for everything. PopPop's out.